we'll get started and hopefully everyone comes in. But thanks to everyone for being here and adjusting your schedules. You guys have heard me talk about Mark for so long now. And so, I called him a couple weeks ago and I was really excited about this because my goal for 2024, with not just you guys, but all employees, is to help them be a better husband, a better father, a better, whatever it might be, if that's a brother or a sister. And the way in which you're doing that is by obviously having a well-balanced life, but also better educating yourself. So if I have people like Mark in my life that can help you guys to help you find that success, whether that be in your personal life or, at work, that's what I want to do. So one of the great things I love about Mark is he does this, this seminar, if you will, of question mark. So that's what today's going to be. We're going to try and do this once a month until he leaves. He leaves for the summertime. But I'm really excited about this. So we are going to be recording, but I want you to know I don't want you guys to be shy or nervous about any questions. I want you to ask the question, and then if you don't want it posted somewhere, you can just go to Lexi and say, hey, I don't want that out there. But I would hate for you guys to hold back on a question just because it's going to be recorded or anything like that. So Mark was in surgery a couple hours ago. So thank you, Mark, for being. I told him
an hour and 15 minutes actually.
I told him, like, dude, we can reschedule. He's like, no, I'm fine. I'll have Mary, my girlfriend, not fiance yet. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. But he's like, I can't drive, but I can give a speech. So here's Mark today, but I'm really excited. Please ask the questions. Let's have fun.
I want to set this up so that there's no expectations. We want to just let this be an open forum that allows you to kind of go with the flow organically. Even if you don't have a question right now, if something triggers a thought or a question, then just go with it. And as Cam said, it doesn't matter if it's personal, if it's business, if it's career. It's our life, right? And when I did the balance test, in fact, make a little note here, life balance test. It's free, little app I put on the stores. They've already got it?
Yeah.
Great. And it's something that you can take over and over because every time you take it, it saves the previous results and it overlays so you can see what kind of changes you're making. But what we found is that, especially in Western culture, we are taught to go for the brass ring, go for the career, go for the money, and that's going to take care of everything else. It's commonplace to assume that if you had, whether it was $1 million, $100 million, $1 billion, that at some point your problems would all be taken care of. And when I do my one-on-one coaching, this is with the ultra high net worth. My average coaching client is worth over $100 million. And I can tell you right now, they're coaching with me for a reason. Sometimes they come along thinking, hey, I hear you can help me make more money. And I say, you know what, if that's the only reason why you're hiring me, I'm not your guy. Because what we've learned is if you break your life into all 10 different categories, if you give me somebody who's got a 10 in half those categories, they're a trillionaire. They've got all these things going, but they're a 1 in the other half, like their intimate relationships, their general relationships, health and fitness. Now that person's going to have an aggregate score of 50-ish. Now give me another person who only scores a 5. That's their highest score. But they score 5 in all 10 categories. This person with the same general aggregate score is going to be infinitely happier, more at peace, and more in love with their life than this person who's got 5 10s. And most people will never figure that out in an entire life. They keep on going after those highest scores, not realizing that, you know what? If you're worth $1 trillion, but your child has been kidnapped, right? Or you're going through a 5-year divorce, or you're 150 pounds overweight, you're not going to be happy. So that's one of the reasons why Cam is saying it doesn't matter what part of your life, because he also knows as a businessman that if he has a staff of individuals who are balanced and who actually love their lives, they're not just going to be happier. They're not just going to be more appreciative of the fact that Cameron brought this to you, but they're going to be better better employees, better managers, better leaders. So everybody wins. That's one of the reasons why it's so important that you not pick and choose what kind of questions. If it's important to you, it's important to us. So that's for starters. Now, it can certainly be a business question because, of course, that's part of my life. I've been a business performance coach for many, many decades. So we can have some of those answers too. Don't ask me how to tune up a diesel. I'm not your guy. But we do want to keep it open. Cameron made it very clear, as did Evan. He said, no agenda. Just be there to support my teams. And ideally, to support them in ways that they can then turn around and support their teams. And for those of you who are watching the recording, so your questions are hopefully being answered because the folks in this room represent you. And they're more likely to ask things that anybody would ask. And so that's one of the nicest things about it is don't be too concerned about your question being so specific that everybody else is going to be going, oh, when is he going to finish this one? Because almost without exception, whatever you ask, I will not just answer that question, but I'll answer it with principles, universal principles that will apply to every area in your life. Yes, you can use it for that one specific application, but it'll probably apply to all sorts of other things. In fact, I've said this to Cameron multiple times. He'd call in with some kind of a challenge, never a catastrophe, well, maybe a few, but definitely with a certain challenge. And I'd say, it's never about the thing, Cam. This thing, how many of you know what a growth mindset is? Or even have an idea? It's good for you to all know. How many of you know what a mindset is? Okay, that's great. So who wants to take a shot at it? Because sometimes I find that people confuse mindset with attitude. It's not the same. So those of you who think mindset is attitude, put your hand down. Who wants to take a shot? What do you think a mindset is? Evan, go for it. I love that. He just took the risk. Doesn't matter whether you know the answer. It's just setting me up for the answer that I'm going to give you anyhow, right?
I believe a mindset could be defined as a collection of experiences, belief systems, and applications of those things, and they develop into a either subconscious or conscious way in which you view the world.
Oh, that was really well done. Why don't you come on up and I'm going to sit down. That's beautiful. Let's think of it like this. Think of it as a lens. It's the lens through which you see the world. You can have more than one lens. You can have more than one mindset. And we're starting with this before you start asking questions because you'll see that I keep going back to mindset over and over because that will end up being arguably the most powerful tool that you can ever develop is the ability to manage your states, which is another way of determining what mindsets best serve you. So an attitude, that's just something that comes and goes. You could wake up with on the wrong side of the bed, you've heard that. You can have a good attitude and then a few hours later you hear some nasty thing and now you've got a pissy attitude. And so attitudes kind of go up and down. A mindset is more of a general process. It's something that kind of think of that lens where you may have a mindset that's with you for your entire life. But the most important thing is that if you have a mindset that doesn't serve you, and that's a term I use frequently, is how do you know if something's serving you? Anybody? It serves you if it's making your life better or the lives of those around you. So imagine going through life asking every single time you say, think, or do something, does this serve me? Is this state serving me? Is this making my life better? Like if you're in a victim state, does this serve me? No, it makes me feel like crap. It brings out the worst in me and the worst in my teams. So we want to start getting an idea of what is a mindset. And so think of that lens to give you an idea. I want to show you a multiple mindset so that you can see that you can have more than one. Let's take Elon Musk. you don't want his life. If you ever watch enough of his videos, he always ends up somewhere in one or two of them saying, you don't want my life. I'm not happy. My life is crazy, busy, challenging, and so on. But he does have some interesting strengths. There are things that make him stand out. What do you think, what mindset would account for Elon Musk's insane success? Anyone want to take a shot at that?
A growth mindset.
Pardon?
A growth mindset.
Yes, let's start with a growth mindset, which is where we started this whole thing. Full circle, nicely said. Thanks for setting me up. So the growth mindset is, I'm here to get better. I'm here to learn. I'm here to improve. And I can improve. The human mind is so malleable. Plasticity, right up until the day we die, we can reprogram ourselves. We can change these lenses and we can become more. We can become better. In the end, I always end up asking my coaching clients, so what is your greatest accomplishment? And almost always, because especially if they're wealthier, successful business, it'll be the business I built. Some will say, well, the family I raised, which is really, that's not a bad accomplishment. But ultimately, you want it to be, I am my greatest achievement. Whatever I was born with. I was living in a car when I was 17 years old. Very serious abuse in the family of all kinds, alcohol abuse and so on. Both my dad and stepdad, very abusive. So lots of excuses for not being successful, but because I had a growth mindset, I turned it all around. What can I learn from this? How can I become better, stronger, more effective? And so a person with a growth mindset isn't going to be the same person in a year from now. You won't be the same person after we leave this session today. Because right now you're asking the question, how can I use this to make my life better? How can I use this to support those around me, to create a life of my dreams? That's a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is the exact opposite. We all know somebody like that. Basically, this is just the way things are. This is how I was born. I just can't do that. Everybody in my family's bad at math. There's no point in even trying. So I see a few people nodding. I started out with one of those. So how many of you know somebody with a fixed mindset where it's like they just aren't here to change? They're not here to improve, to get better. So can you imagine my audiences when I have a big seminar going on? What I find is that most of the room is full of people with what kind of mindset? Growth, absolutely. The people there with a fixed mindset, they're only there because that's how they were able to get the other person to show up. It's like, you need to get better. I can't change. This is the way I am. But you need to be here for that. So obviously, the growth mindset is something that you can develop. We can all develop these mindsets. So absolutely, Elon Musk, massive growth mindset, is learning, learning, learning. What does he say when one of his rockets blows up? It's always the same thing. We learned so much. It was worth it. His telemetry, all the things they use to measure what happened and why it happened. That's why he doesn't freak out. It's like, all right, what did we learn? And how can we go on from here? How about any other mindsets that you guys can think of that would be responsible for his massive success? One of the most obvious ones, opportunity mindset. Tell me what an opportunity mindset is. You guys might as well just start spewing it out here because I'm not going to stop asking questions. So it's not just question Mark, it's Mark questioning. So, and you'll find when you do ask a question, it's easier after that to just start interacting and chatting. So we'll let massive shouldered Eric, that's the drugs, talking heaven, cross in front of our lens. So it's all great. So anybody want to take a stab at opportunity mindset? Yes?
Everything's an opportunity.
Everything is an opportunity. That's an opportunity mindset. I can actually say I don't have any problems. And then people, if they don't know what I do for a living, they'll go, what do you mean? Of course you do. Everybody has problems. I go, no, actually. You know what the problem is? Anybody? What's the problem?
Probably us.
Huh?
Maybe us. And then we're going to do it.
Yeah. A problem, if you look at it from, I have a simple definition that changes the way we see it. It's an unexpected outcome. That's a problem. See, when you think of a problem normally, you're thinking, it's a bad thing. Well, no, not necessarily. If you have an opportunity mindset and this thing happens, an unexpected outcome, and you have a fixed mindset, you're going to go into a victim state and oh no, oh no. But if you have an opportunity mindset, how are you going to look at this unexpected outcome? If you're Elon Musk.
Learn from it.
Pardon?
Pivot, learn
What can
from
we
it.
learn? Pivot? What was that?
An opportunity.
Opportunity, absolutely. Think of it this way. You remember in the old days and they'd have horses with blinders? You know what the blinders were for? Keep the horse from being distracted by anything else. They wanted it focused only on what was right in front of it. You know, the problem with that is what if there's something really cool going on over here? Okay? Unexpected outcomes, take off the blinders. It's like, this one thing I'm looking at isn't happening the way I planned. That's terrible. Or, wait a minute. This one thing, instead of looking at it as a roadblock, what's the difference between a roadblock and a detour? Anyone? Say it again? Well, yeah, well stated, but literally, what's the difference?
You can get around a detour.
There you go. Love it. A roadblock says, stop, you're done, you can't go on. A detour says, well, don't go that way. You got to go a different way. How many other ways can you go in the world? If you're heading 1 degree in that direction, how many degrees are there? 360, and all the ones in between, infinite, right? An infinite number of other opportunities, of other ways of looking at it. So think of it like this, that problem, that unexpected outcome, it's not a roadblock, it's a detour saying, look around, take off the blinders. Somewhere out there, there's an infinite number of ways you could go that are worse and an infinite number of ways that are better. So I'm going to just start looking at the better ways. So that's the opportunity mindset. Everything is an opportunity. Imagine as leaders going into every situation that way. Instead of thinking it has to be exactly this way, no, you know what you've done? You've just picked the best way that you can think of for the moment. But then something comes up and you go, wait a minute. There's an infinite number of ways, many of which are far better. I'm going to find another way to go in that same general direction and end up with even better results. One last one we'll do, and then we're going to start doing some Q&A. How about this one, which is why I call my company Limitless. So he has a limitless mindset. What would that mean? If you had a limitless mindset?
Anything's possible.
Anything, everything. So if everything's an opportunity and everything is possible, what do you end up with? $280 billion in personal wealth. You can do almost anything if that's the way you're seeing it, because he truly believes that everything is possible. And how many of you heard this? It's a classic cliche. Anything we can conceive and believe, we can achieve. Kind of roll your eyes when you hear a cliche over and over. Think of it this way. If it's a cliche, it's because it's been around for hundreds or thousands of years. It has survived all the cynics, and still we're teaching it. It's because it's probably absolutely true. If you did nothing but live your life based on all the cliches you've heard in your life, you'd have a pretty remarkable life. So anything we can conceive and believe, we can achieve. Is there anything we can't conceive, the human mind? We can think of anything, right? I mean, the human mind is capable of conceiving any thought. Anything we can, how about believing? Are we capable of believing anything? Easter Bunny? Santa Claus? How about flat Earth? We can conceive anything, we can believe anything, and so there's your limitless mindset. Then that means we can accomplish anything. As leaders, what would that look like? If you went into every situation saying, there's an infinite number of ways of accomplishing this, of getting to our objective, of our goal, of whatever challenge you're facing, it's just an unexpected outcome. That's not good or bad. It's just different. So start imagining your life in that context and thinking about growth mindset, and suddenly there's no question you can ask that doesn't have limitless possibilities for ways that you can use it to make your life better. It may sound like you're stuck or there's an issue or a problem. As soon as it comes to me, when I say I have no problems, that's because I have a filter. Whereas the other person, most people have a filter that here's a thing that happened, it hits the filter and it's, oh no. Because their filter is, it either has to be the way I want it to be or it's bad. My filter is, it's just an unexpected outcome. So whatever it is, boom, 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 here comes opportunity. I have an opportunity mindset and a limitless mindset and a growth mindset, just as you figured out. So whatever happens, my mind immediately says, cool. I may be the only person in a room full of 500 people going, cool. Everybody else is going, oh no, no, the sky is falling. Well, wouldn't that make me a pretty good problem solver? If no matter what happens, I'm asking what's great about this? And I'm asking, well, how can I end up using this to create an amazing outcome? So then I get to be the best problem solver in the room. I don't even have to be more creative. I'm just asking the right questions. Instead of, oh, why me? Oh, what idiot thought of this? Or whatever it might be. I'm going, awesome, what's great? How can we use this? So we will spend some time with whatever your questions are, identifying which mindset is behind this, which lens, because let's face it, if you take a lens and I take a spider and you look at that spider through a magnifying lens, what are you going to see? If I blow that spider up this big, spiders look pretty creepy up close. And you could freak out if you're looking at it and that's all you see is this giant spider. But what if I look at it through a wide angle lens? What will it look like? Tiny little black speck off in the distance, and I'm not freaking out. Same exact spider, different lens. That's your life. If you're having a great life, you've got some great lenses. If your life is really causing you issues and challenges, you've got lenses that don't what? Serve you. Yeah, you've got lenses that don't serve you. And the beauty of it is, it's not fixed. You can change your lens. Until imagine having a life that's nothing but lenses that serve you. Yes.
So I feel like I'm a very positive lens person. I see life in a very beautiful way. But my question is something to do with how to proceed with a certain thing. Okay, so it's my actions. This is a heavy question to start with, but no one else is going. My question is, my parents are presently getting divorced after 28 years of marriage. My dad is a very narcissistic kind of personality, but he's kind of like a con artist where he's very charming, very sweet to me, but at the same time is like hurting my mom, like stabbing her in the back, asking for spousal support when she was the breadwinner, just like so many things. And she has never left my side. Like, I am team mom all the way. So I'm wondering, how do I navigate my relationship with my father, like now, and especially in the future when I have kids, when I don't agree with anything he's doing. He's up and left. He's in Cuba right now. He changes countries every couple weeks. Just totally gave up all responsibilities and family connections.
Yeah, it's a great question. Now, while she's asking this, whether it's because your folks are going through divorce or because anyone in here know anybody who narcissistic personalities, malignant, self-serving, manipulative, and I'm not talking about the person sitting next to you. Be nice. Yeah. So this answer applies to everyone in your life who is not living up to your expectations. We have a tendency to expect people to behave the way we behave, right? If you're behaving yourself, right? But even if you're not, if you're incarcerated, you're surrounded by people who have, let's say at the very least, instant gratification mindset. Okay, there's a lot of that going around in prisons. Well, you're probably expecting them to see the world the way you do. We all have a tendency to do that. How many people on this planet are exactly the same as you? Not a single one of them. Imagine if you expected someone, let's say, who was gifted physically And they've been an insane athlete since the time they were born. I saw Banks. I was blown away. This kid you were throwing baseballs in the house, and he didn't miss anything. And I mean, and I don't know, he was like 4 or 5, I think. He might have been 6. But it was like everything he did. He jumped on a bike, and it's like he hadn't ridden this new thing that you'd gotten him. He's like all over. I'm like, holy cow, this kid is physically gifted. So what kind of expectations do you think his dad has when he goes out for sports? What kind of expectations will he have? Right? You're thinking he's going to rock it, right? And you'll just enjoy it, but you won't necessarily be all that blown away because you expected that. The problem with expectation mindset is that it's like when we are thinking that the world owes us something or the world's supposed to be a certain way. Even if you get it, you're not that excited about it because you expected it, right? It's like, well, yeah. I remember my mom, she just expected me to get straight A's in school. I'd come home with my report card and she'd go, that's nice, honey. Yeah, but I got all these straight A's. And yeah, I know, I figured you would. Well, all my friends for getting straight B's were getting cars for their 16th birthday. I was like, what the heck? So what happens if you change your expectations? What if he had a child who had cerebral palsy? And that child, who could barely even walk, goes out there and joins Special Olympics and actually is able to hit the ball far enough to run to first base. How would you feel? Child with cerebral palsy that can barely walk. You'd be like, holy cow, this is great. I've worked with Special Olympics. The people get very excited about things that we wouldn't be that impressed with, right? But we have a different set of expectations for them. And so suddenly, we're not disappointed because they're living, in this case, down to our expectations. Well, we get to decide what the expectations are. So when you look at your dad expecting him to behave himself, right, to act like a normal parent, the way you would parent, you're pretty disappointed, aren't you? Perhaps concerned and maybe even a little fearful of what might happen when he's around your children. But when you look at him and say, he has issues, he is narcissistic and manipulative and so on, in a minute I'll even get to that. And so I don't expect him to behave himself. I don't expect him to contribute to the people around him. I expect him, if you study narcissism, probably the number one book is the one on malignant self-love, is the title of it. Then you suddenly expect them to be manipulative and self-serving and do whatever it is that they think they need to do in order to survive and get their needs met. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, so you're not upset about them. You're not disappointed. I have a little brother who was late for everything, always, all the time. Anybody know somebody who is chronically late? I mean, like they're trying to set a record or something. They just are incapable of consistently being on time. It's just like, what the heck? And so, but you still, anybody like that, and you still set up appointments with them, and you still expect them to be on time? Anybody? Hands? You keep on expecting them to be something other than what they are, and you keep on being disappointed. So imagine that you step back and go, okay, this person is chronically late. For whatever reason, this is who they are. Well, I told my little brother, I said, we'd go play tennis, right? And you can't play tennis by yourself. It's not very fun. And he'd show up 45 minutes late if he showed up at all. And I'd say, if I were the president or somebody really special, you'd show up. You ever feel like they're not showing up because they don't respect you? Any hands? By the way, this will keep you awake. Because I brought my pickleball paddle and some balls to wake you up if anybody starts drifting off, and I'm a pretty good shot. So unless you want pen emblazoned on your forehead, keep those hands going. So I had written this story. Of course, this is before I became enlightened. So that he just didn't respect me, and I wasn't important to him. One day he's telling me about this date he has with a girl, and he's raving. Beautiful, perfect, wonderful, everything. He had bought tickets to Les Mis, if you know the play. And this was the traveling Broadway show, so he paid a fortune, and he didn't have that much money at the time. And he's going on about, yeah, I'm taking her to Les Mis. It's going to be amazing. It's this Saturday. And so he was so excited about it that I called him up Sunday morning. How did it go? What? The play. What? Les Mis, the girl. Oh, shit. Right there on the spot. He's like going, oh my gosh. Totally blew her off. Totally forgot about it. Spaced it out. And I went, oh my gosh, he would be late for an appointment with the president. He'd actually probably forget about it. He'd probably miss it. And then I realized, now one, yes, I can teach him how to be on time, much more likely, but little brothers don't necessarily listen. You know, what is it? No one's a prophet in their own home. Or I can simply accept that he has some anomalies that make it so that being on time and being so on, being his word, that's just not part of his makeup. So I immediately changed my lens, changed my expectations, expecting that he would be late for things. And so we had football tickets, season tickets and so on. I'd say, hey, you want to go to the game? Yeah, I'd love to. I'll leave your ticket under the floor mat. If you're here before I go, we can ride together. Otherwise, I'll see you there. And it was perfect. I stopped playing tennis with him, but I wasn't angry. I just realized, well, I don't want to play alone. And I changed my expectations. Our relationship instantly went up. He was no longer making me late. I wasn't being a victim. And I didn't put myself in situations, leave him alone with the kids for a weekend, where bad things could happen. So I started to work my life around this new version of him. And you can do that with everybody once you figure out who they are. Now there's part two, which is, do they have a growth mindset? If so, you can help them elevate their character, their nature. You can show them how to be on time, how to be whatever it might be. Of course, if it's true narcissistic personality disorder, supposedly that's incurable. But in most cases, we can, with a growth mindset, help them move into another role. But until then, find out who they are. And as the saying goes, once they show you, not tell you, once they show you who they are, what is it? Believe them. So do you have any thoughts or feelings about that? Is there, this, by the way, I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear, like, oh, well, then just do this and he'll suddenly be perfect. But rather what you need to hear, sometimes what we need to hear is things don't always work out the way we plan. How about this? Life isn't fair. Does anybody disagree with me? Does anyone have a life that is absolutely always fair all the time? Everyone always does exactly what they're supposed to? Yeah. It's not fun to hear, but it makes life so much easier to just say, well, life isn't fair. If life was fair, no one would be born with a disorder. There'd be no one would ever be blind. There'd be all these things, right? That wouldn't happen. But life isn't fair. Does that mean it's not worth living? No. Life is full of unexpected outcomes. Now you get to figure out this. Most powerful question. First question, as I said, is what's great about this? Second one is, how can I? And now finish the sentence. What is it that you want? How can I have the best relationship possible with my Father under the circumstances? And then the subconscious goes to work. It's constantly trying to answer the questions. And whatever answer you come up with, it'll be better than the version that, oh, this just sucks and there's nothing I can do about it. Any questions? How did that feel?
I think it's going to be interesting because my perspective and attitude on it, I think, is very resolved. Like, I was the one that was like, he's never changing. Like, he's never coming back. He's never changing. And the one that said we need to instill these boundaries. It's just a matter of, like, how does one draw the line with him and his tendencies?
Oh, yeah, boundaries and consequences. So I can see you guys can all leave. We're going to just go ahead and do this for the next hour and a half. She's got enough good questions. Boundaries and consequences. Oh, my gosh. You have to have boundaries. Yes.
As you share this, could you share the application into expectations in the business world for having standards? And rather than saying that person's always late, how do you enforce standards that are non-negotiable but also understand it?
What a wonderful, perfect timing. Boundaries and consequences. So would you all agree that an automobile has lots of parts? Does it make sense that if just one of those major parts stops working, the car doesn't work, right? If your steering wheel breaks or your brakes go out, right, or the transmission goes out, it doesn't take the whole car to break down in order for it to stop working, right? So there are certain things that absolutely must happen for that car to run. Now, the car can run even on a flat tire. You can still get to a gas station, right? The upholstery can tear, headlights can get knocked out, and you can still drive it. But there are things that will not work. I mean, that if they go down, the car's done. You got to figure out in your personal life and in your business what those non-negotiables are, okay? What do we call them in standard vernacular is deal killers, right? What are the deal killers? What happens if you have 5,000 deal killers? 5,000 non-negotiables? Yeah, you're not going to make any deals. You can't even remember them, much less the people in your lives, right? They're going to be like, I can't keep up. Just like fighting a war. Can you fight a war on 20 or 30 different fronts? What will eventually happen? What will you end up depleting? Your resources, your personnel. You don't have enough people to circle your entire country. You have to pick and choose your battles, right? If you want to have any chance of succeeding. Same thing with your boundaries and consequences. So what are your boundaries? Now what we do, like when I'm coaching with a client, we say, we're going to do this in the following order. First, you're going to learn, know thyself. Oldest philosophy on earth. Goes back 5,000 years, Imhotep. Put it over the entrance to the pyramids. It's only 2 words, but it's endured for 5,000 years. Must be important to know who you are. Who am I? Why do I feel the way I do? Why do I think and say and do the things I do? After that, it's accept thyself, because you're going to find out you're not perfect, right along with everybody else. And then it's be true to thyself, now that you know who you are. And finally, it's speak thy truth. Let the rest of the world know who you are. And so this factors into deciding what are your boundaries, whether it's in a corporate environment or in your personal life or as a team leader. What are your boundaries? What are the non-negotiables? And you make it perfectly clear. But you don't do it from just an authoritarian perspective, from a force. There's Power versus Force, one of the best books ever written. You don't do it from a force perspective. I'm going to make you do this because this is the way I want things. No, you do it from a discussion standpoint. These are the boundaries we have, and here's why we have them. Here's what's important. This is what we need to make the car run. Without these boundaries, the car won't run. The business will fail, and we'll all be looking for another job. But if you want to be working with this company and you want it to be successful, and of course, just like I just been following the playoffs, if you want to make it to the Super Bowl, there's certain things that you absolutely must do. Every person on that team had better be playing full out. You can't have just 2 or 3 people on that team playing because you're going to get slaughtered. They've all got to play with everything they've got. Those coaches don't stand up there and say, we paid you $20 million, so you better get out there and work hard. They go out there and say, hey, who wants to go to the Super Bowl? Who wants to go to the Super Bowl? Everybody, right? Well, you know it's going to cost. It's not going to be easy. There's a reason why only one team is going to the Super Bowl, or is going to win the Super Bowl this year, and it's not going to be the team that just showed up and hoped everything worked out. It's going to be the ones who paid the price. But you have to enroll them. They've got to see the advantages to their own lives. They've got to see that, you know what, we could create the most amazing team, the most amazing organization that you could ever hope to work for. But we can't do it ourselves. We need you. We need you desperately to help us make this happen. And these are the boundaries. These are the things that need to happen in order for us to get there. And you got to get their buy-in. Once you've shared the boundaries with them, you've got to get them to agree to those boundaries. Because they make sense. And if they don't, then you negotiate. You talk and you work it out until you can both come to an agreement on what makes sense, what seems fair, reasonable, and effective. Once they've done that, you say, now, there are consequences for not accomplishing this. And most, by the way, the best consequences are what I call natural consequences. They're not punitive consequences. If you don't do this, then I'm going to do this to make you pay. I don't do it with people, individuals, businesses, or with my kids. Because the idea of intentionally causing another person harm because they didn't get it right, that's not enlightened. Okay? But imagine this. I remember telling my daughter when she's 12 years old, listen, if you lie to me, I won't believe you anymore. If I catch you lying, then I'm going to start questioning everything and I won't be able to trust you. Now, I'm not doing it to punish you. I love you. I want to trust you. And I caught her lying on something really huge. And so for a year, I said, honey, I don't know if I can trust you to do that. I'm sorry, but the answer is no, I can't let you do that. For a year, she went crazy. But Daddy, I can't go to any parties. I can't stay overnight. Yeah, that's because you went to a bunch of strangers, kids, boys' houses that you met on the internet, and you could have been raped and kidnapped and God knows what. It's very scary. And I just don't want to take those risks. After a year, I finally said, okay, honey, I'm going to start over. I'm going to trust and believe everything you say till the next time. And it may be 2 years, maybe 5 years before I can trust you again. So, gosh, I hope that I make it safe enough for you to tell me the truth. No matter what you've done, tell me up front. Tell me as soon as you can. And whatever the consequence will be, it won't be as bad as that I don't trust you anymore, right? A consequence is not only, it's got to be reasonable. You can't say to somebody or to your kid, if you do this, then we're going to throw you off a cliff. Because chances are you won't do it. So you've got to keep your consequences. You've got to honor them yourselves. And they've got to be aware of the consequence and they've got to agree to the consequence. But that's not that hard because you've already talked about the importance of the boundary and they've said, yes, you're right. We need to do this to make it work. And if you don't, then we'll need to replace you. You know what? I know we've worked together for all this time and I love having you in my life, but we're going to need to find somebody that doesn't step over these lines. There are a few areas where maybe we can work things through, but these are not the areas. So whatever your consequence is, I'll need to replace you in a marriage. Well, then I'll need to leave you. These are the boundaries we've agreed on. Maybe it's fidelity. Do you want me sleeping around? Well, no. Well, then you probably shouldn't be doing it either, right? Let's agree to that one. We won't cheat on each other. All right. And if we do, no, I don't want to do the bobbit thing. If you remember that with the knife, that was not necessarily. She got off on that, by the way, amazingly. But whatever the consequence is, well, so if you do cheat on me, then we'll just go ahead and we'll file for divorce. Do you agree? Yes, I agree that those are acceptable terms. Done. Now, of course, you cross your fingers and hope that they don't go beyond that. But so one, Evan, is this what you were looking for when you asked that question?
Yeah. I love two highlights that you said is one, I don't even know if that was the point you were making. You said, man, I hope I make it safe for you to always tell me the truth, which is easier said than done, which is not being overly reactionary or showing them that they can trust you with the information that you're asking for, which is a big deal in leadership. But also, I love how hip to hip you make things sound, which is, hey, you are a component just like I am, and this component serves this purpose, and all these things put together make this whole thing work. And these are the standards that thing needs to be firing at, and I want to get you there and I want to work there. But if that's not you, I understand. So it's sharing those standards and putting them, like almost giving them that invitation to choose to follow or not.
Oh my God, and you said something really important. And if it's not you, I understand. Wow, we must allow free agency. And it may be that that's not who they are. And we need to be able to accept that. Just as with your estranged father, imagine a transparent conversation where you simply say, look, this is what I've observed in our relationship, and it makes me feel very unsafe. It makes me feel that I'm not truly loved and supported, or whatever it is that you're feeling. And you say, these are the feelings that have come about as a result of our relationships and choices that you've made. And so I don't want to keep feeling that way, and I don't want to be anxious and nervous or whatever it is that you're feeling. And so these are the boundaries that I have for you if you want to be in my life. And if you don't honor these boundaries, these are the consequences. You won't be in my life. You won't meet your grandkids, because that's not something I'm willing to risk, is the health and so on of my children. Now this is but this is not a power play. I'm just having an open, transparent conversation with you about how I feel. I can do it with anyone, with employees, team, staff, with intimate relationships with my kids. I'm totally open about everything I think and feel, including standing on this stage. And I can say things that might not make me look great, but that's okay, because know thyself, number 2, what is it? Accept thyself. I'm not perfect. No one is, and that's okay. I'm not here to show you what it looks like to be perfect, because I have no idea what that looks like. But I can show you what it looks like to put everything out there and play full out in your life. And of course, make mistakes along the way. Yeah.
So, like, if I have someone on my team who does have a fixed mindset, is there something that I can do, as the team lead, to like help them change their mindset?
Trick question. So if they have it's a great question, because everyone's going to run into that. By virtue of the fact that they have a fixed mindset, it means that they have absolutely no interest in changing their mindset. Now, we know about the cameras. Remember back when you used to change the lens? This one probably has an interchangeable lens. Is it a bayonet mount or a screw mount? Screw mount. So I was a photographer. I was a filmmaker for many, many years. So I like to use film, motion picture analogies and metaphors. But back when you change the lens, if you just take the lens off, it's just a blur. It's nothing. You have to put a lens on in order to know what you're seeing. See, that's what reality is. There's subjective reality, which is the only reality you know, and then there's objective reality, which is reality as it truly is, but we can't see it any more than you can see through that camera without a lens on it. It's just a blur. So you've got to be able to put the lens on, then you can see whatever it is you see. Now, we all think that whatever we're seeing, that's the way it is, and that's what everyone sees. But it's not. It'll always come back to whatever that lens might be.
What if I add on to that? So say you have somebody, as far as management-wise, that thinks you don't respect them, but every time you try to have a conversation with them, they just give you nothing but negative feedback. You have it out for me, you have it out for my team, you have it out for this, when it's not like that at all.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you to repeat that in just a minute so that we can get a segue from this question to that, if that's okay. So when it comes to the fixed mindset, now what are the cameras, the throwaway cameras? It's just one lens, right? Now you can't focus on something 6 inches away. It'll just be blurry. You certainly can't zoom in on somebody landing on the moon. It's just one lens, and that's the lens they've got. So when you have somebody with a fixed mindset, you've got to learn to see the world through their eyes, through their lens. And then your expectations are adjusted to what that lens is capable of. That's a fixed mindset. Again, I don't want to condemn anyone to a fixed mindset. We love the idea. This is what I do for a living, right? It's transform lives. I'd love to think that everyone has a growth mindset, but they don't. I didn't invent the term fixed mindset. There are some people that I'll never say that no one can ever change. I'll just say some people have to fall into a well and be half-eaten by bats or something, and then finally they become somebody else because they've hit rock bottom. Rock bottom is great, by the way. Rock bottom, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but it's the greatest way in the world to make change. That's why you see it in the movies. Does art imitate life? Absolutely. You see that person who is just a loser and then they hit rock bottom. Anybody think of a movie like that and then after the worst things happen, then they turn into somebody else because that version's obviously not working. But without that, pardon?
7 pounds.
Oh my gosh, what a movie. What a freaking movie. That was amazing. Yeah, great example. So, yeah, it's incredible. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's a great message movie starring Will Smith. It's amazing. So long story short is look at the world through their lens. And if we have time, I'll talk about the glass box, and then you'll understand what it is to see the world through the lens of others. And it'll make you infinitely better managers, better spouses, better parents, better friends when you learn how to see through the eyes of someone else. And again, fixed mindset, they can only see so much. And so, dogs are colorblind. So don't use red and blue and yellow toys to try to teach them something. They can't tell the difference. So that doesn't mean you don't try to train dogs. You just realize that you can't train them using color. You train them using smells and shapes and sounds. So you work within the parameters of their current capability. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, what the heck did you ask?
So say I have a situation as far as a manager thinks I don't respect him, but every time I try to have a conversation with him, it's always negative. It always feels like I have it out for him or his team.
Always feels like what?
I have it out for him or his team.
Yeah. So this is how what he expresses. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, actually that's a perfect time to talk about the glass box. So here's what I'd like you to do. Imagine, it's another way of understanding mindset, lenses, perception. Because believe me, you master that, and you have the best shot at mastering your life of anybody you'll ever know. Because we live in the mind. What that means is, again, we're not capable of seeing the world as it truly is. We can only see what it looks like through our lens. So everything that happens is happening in our mind. Our mind is interpreting things, and either intentionally or reactively through programming and conditioning, reacting and responding to what it believes is true. Okay? And when I say what it believes is true, it's because we do what we believe. Let that sink in for a minute. We do what we believe. What do you think really happened to the Twin Towers? I was on a stage the day after it happened, and of course everyone was condemning the guys who flew those planes into the buildings. And they were expecting me to say, yeah, those really horrible human beings, and condemn them, and I didn't do that. And they said, well, what do you mean? They're so bad. I said, no. I said, that's just a perspective. To a lot of people, those guys are heroes. They go, how could they be heroes? I said, well, what do you think? Do you think that they woke up one morning and said, I'm going to do some really nasty crap, and I know, I'll fly a plane into a bunch of buildings? No, they were conditioned to believe that Americans are evil, bad, corrupt, cruel, infidels, destroying the future of humanity. And that if they could find a way to stop us from doing that, they'd not only be heroes to their society, to their friends and loved ones and their culture, but they'd go to the seventh, I don't know which kingdom it is, but they'd get 77 virgins out of it. So they were going to be rewarded for this. How many of you believe in something so strongly? Now, I'm not talking about that's just to do with your kids, but something that would make the world a better place. How many of you believe so strongly that you would kill yourself to do it? To create it? How many of you would commit suicide just to create a better world? Yeah, that's commitment. That was amazing what they were doing from their perspective. It's all they knew. See, I always love to say, hey, if I had your lenses, your mindset, perspective, conditioning, if I saw the world the way you do, if I believed everything you believe, I would have done the same thing. How do I know? Because that's why they did it. We all would. We would do whatever they would do if we were them. Does that make sense? So once you understand that concept, the idea of we live in the mind takes on this huge value, because that means that rather than trying to change the world around you every time something's not working out the way you plan, this is where you start. Why is this bothering me? Why is this upsetting me? What's really happening? How am I seeing it? What lens am I looking at? Does this serve me? And so imagine when you're first conceived, just before you're born, you're just floating around in space. And you don't have any opinions about anything. You just see the world as it is. You're inside of a big glass box, floating in space. How many sides are there to a box? 6. Very good. Most people say 4. I thought I'd get you. Wow, he's on top of things. Well, of course, you're a numbers guy, so only makes sense. So you're floating around and you see the world, the universe, as it really is. You just see it with no opinions. But as soon as you're born, you do what human beings do best. You start to identify and analyze and label things. We go into judgment mode. So for what does an infant know? Tell me things that are good and bad to an infant.
Ice cream.
Sweet things taste sweet things, ice cream. So you write it on your Post-it note and you stick it right there on one of the walls of your glass box so you don't forget. That's good. What's bad?
Nap time.
Nap time. Okay, bad. Having to take a nap is bad. Keep going. Come on. Good, bad. Dirty diapers. Yes. Dirty diapers, bad. It feels bad. It smells bad. There you go. What else?
Touching something.
Pardon?
Touching something, like, in a good way.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, they like to touch the...
Yes.
Except for that one specific blanket.
Right. Yes. Tactile sensory feedback. Good.
Getting bitten by a dog.
Dogs, angry, bitey dogs, bad.
Or a cat.
Or cat. Cat scratch fever, bad.
Receiving love.
Receiving love, good. Yeah, on the simplest level, to an infant, being warm is good, being cold is bad. Being held and snuggled is good, being left alone is bad. Being hungry is bad, being fed is good, right? All these look at this. At 1 month old, a couple of weeks old, we're already putting things up on this wall, defining reality. These things are good, these things are bad. We're determining our belief system, right? As you get older and older, by the time you're in elementary school, being shamed, being picked last for basketball, bad. Being picked first, good. And it just keeps going until, guess what? By the time you are in your early teens, you've had so many experiences, not only the ones that you've experienced, but did any of your parents share their religious views with you? Hands up. Did any of them do it enthusiastically, hoping you would share them? Yeah. Any of them share their political views? Okay. Any of them enthusiastic? Did some of them always watch Fox? Some of them always watch CNN? Yeah. So it's not just yours. It's everyone out there. They are putting Post-it notes on your walls, and you're either letting them or you're not. How about advertisers? Do they try to tell you how things are? Yeah? So, yeah.
Just a question going along with what you're saying, and with that question, I feel like what I'm hearing is like a lot of the belief systems we have, and when we go into situations like this, is it really about like question asking when you're in a scenario where someone says you're always attacking me or you got it out for me? What are some tools that you could equip us with for problem solving in a situation where, someone says, hey, you got it out for me, or this is the story I've created?
Yeah.
Is it a lot of question asking?
I love it. So this is his way of saying, all right, you're getting a little abstract there. Can you bring it home and tell us how to apply this stuff? So good question. That's my story, is that's what you were thinking. So yes, so to start dialing it in, by the time you're a teenager, you have covered all the walls. They're all covered everywhere. What are they covered with? Are they covered with the facts, or are they covered with the opinions that you and others have of the facts? You can no longer see out at reality at all because the walls are all covered. So this is all you know. So everything that this person is saying, for example, is based on his Post-it notes. He's looking around going, well, this is how it is. And so we're going to dial that in. But everyone is doing the same thing. And here's the crazy part. You're doing it too. And you know what you all think? You think that the inside of everyone else's glass box looks like the inside of yours. It doesn't. There'll be a few things. Rainstorms when you're having a backyard wedding and no tents, probably not good, right? There are some things that we all will agree on, but a lot of things that we won't agree on. And we immediately assume that when they're not behaving in a manner that is consistent with what's in our glass box, that they are right or wrong. Good or bad? Yeah. We just make that assumption because we know that we're right and we're good, so they must be the opposite. Instead of asking the question, what does it look like from inside their glass box? Because we do what we believe. And so this person believes everything he's saying to you probably, actually believes that. Now you're looking in your box going, well, but he's wrong. Doesn't work that way. You got to go inside of their box and see the world through their eyes and then ask the question, what is it that you want? What's the outcome that you want? Yeah.
Be on the same page.
Then you ask the question, how can we get on the same page? And you get that person to help you because you say, look, we obviously see things very differently and I could be wrong. I see some things a certain way and I could be wrong. Write down, and I could be wrong, everybody. Because if you want to have an open conversation with somebody about a possibly contentious situation or scenario, if you don't want them to shut down, after you make your statement, say, and I could be wrong. Let's talk about this. What's the difference between a discussion and an argument?
The mindset.
Well, absolutely. Yeah.
An argument, both people are just trying to argue their point.
They're just trying to win. Nobody's looking for a solution. They're just trying to win. That's an argument. Anybody ever been in an argument? Come on, hands up. If you don't put your hand up, then you're not playing full out here. Come on, you got to get your hand. I need to see it all. Yeah. Every time you've done that, Elvis has left the building. You're not trying to solve the problem. You just want to win. And that's ego. We probably won't get into heavy conversation about ego today. I know we did a little bit in that last little event we did. But that's just your ego. Wants to look good, be right, win. Doesn't care about what's right or wrong. It just wants you to see it as right or wrong. So when we're able to say, and I could be wrong, it opens up all the doors because guess what? You could be wrong. And if they are aware that you're aware that you could be wrong, they're much more likely to listen. Because now you're having a discussion. A discussion is, let's find a solution. Whatever it is, let's get on the same page. But if you want them to be willing to move, what do you need to be willing to do? Yeah. What if, Yeah. Just only do it your way, of course, every time. Yeah. Now, at first, it can be humbling and it can be difficult to say, but I know I'm right. Really? I know it feels that way, but you could be wrong. You could be wrong about a lot of things. Write down, question everything. Question everything. Every belief, every assumption, including question whether or not you could be wrong. What if I'm wrong about this guy? What if I am looking at everything he does negatively? What if I really actually have decided that he's an idiot? And no matter what he does, Goethe wrote, we see what we're looking for. Do you have some people that you're at your best when you're with them? It's just, I don't know why, but whenever I'm with them, it's just like everything seems to flow. Do you have anybody that when you're with them, it's like they just bring out the worst in you? Anybody? Yeah. We all have that experience because the people we're with, they can either bring out the best in us or the worst, as we can do. As leaders, how important is it for you to bring out the best in others? Yeah. What could be more important as a leader than bringing out the best in others? Well, if you want to do that, then you've got to be willing to consider the possibility that their best looks a little different than your best. Their best looks a little different than the way you think their best should look. And that you go into every situation asking, what if I'm wrong? Is there a better version? A better version than what they want and what I want. Maybe there's something in there in the middle that we haven't thought of. So at the very least, everyone's glass box is different. Crawl inside of their glass box and see the world through their eyes. How do you do that? Anyone? How do you see inside of somebody's glass box?
Have a discussion.
Ask them questions. So how does this make you feel? Well, when I do that, does this upset you? Does that upset you? What do you think of this? How do you feel about that? And you'll get different answers when you say think or feel. If you think something, it's going to come from their cerebral cortex, and they're going to tell you what thoughts they have. If you say, how does it make you feel? It'll be a more vulnerable place. Well, it upsets me and it hurts my feelings. It's embarrassing to me. It makes me feel dominated, whatever their answers are. Well, I don't want you to feel that way. What I want is for us to find a way to work together where we're bringing out the best in both of us. So there again, most powerful question, even more than what's great about this, is how can I, or how can we, fill in the blank? Figure out what it is you want. How can we get on the same page? What would that look like? How can we support each other? How can we bring out the best in each other? You start asking the right questions, bless you, and miracles seem to happen. Was that helpful at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is, it's like, I feel like I have no resentment against anybody really, and it's just, I feel like every time I try to have that conversation, it's just negative off of something that's happened in the past, and it's just like repetitive, and it's like, okay, so I try to have that conversation with it, it's always gonna be the same. So that's where I need to take a step back and think about myself too in that situation, but either way, it's just.
I love what you said, that I feel like. Number one thing in any relationship, get rid of superlatives. Try never again to say things as absolute facts. You don't love me. You don't respect me. Every time I talk to you, you do this. Have anybody ever had that, where they say it like it's an absolute? The minute you do that, the other person's ego instantly engages, if for no other reason than because what you're saying is probably not true. It probably doesn't happen every time. They probably haven't done it 20 times, right? Chances are we're seeing something that they're not seeing, and so they're going to disagree with us. So automatically, they're going to throw out everything you just said. Well, what he said isn't true. So when you say it feels like, it seems like, I think, I believe, that leaves room for the possibility of the end of that sentence is, and I could be wrong. It opens up the doors. It's so hard when we've decided things are a certain way. Like every time I talk to this guy, it's always negative. He never takes it constructively. He never does. Once we made that decision, it's really hard to say, wait a minute, what if I'm wrong? What if it's not every time? What if it's 1 out of 2 times? What if he's really just feeling defensive? What if this guy had a dad who was constantly berating him and correcting him and criticizing him? And this is like PTSD, and it's whatever you say, his brain immediately goes to, see, I can't do anything right. Nothing I do. You're going to be upset no matter what. And then they're going to get what? Starts with a D. Defensive. And so all you see is this defensive part of them that's always combating and fighting back, rather than the side that says, listen, I want to work with you, and I know that I'm not perfect, and I'm sure that I've approached this from an angle that's not been helpful, or that's not brought out the best, or made you feel safe. And I want you to feel safe. First thing I do when I'm coaching a client is I say, I'm not going to judge you. Because if you don't feel safe, if you can't be open and transparent, if you can't trust me, you're not going to tell me everything. If you don't tell me everything, how can I help you? It's like going to a doctor with hemorrhoids, and you get there and you're all embarrassed, and he says, so what's wrong? And you're thinking, geez, I'm not going to show him. I have a headache. Well, guess what? You're going to leave with hemorrhoids and 2 aspirin. You got to lay it out there. Well, how do I get them to do that? If I'm a proctologist, I say, by the way, I look at 100 of these a day, and I don't care what's going on down there, but it's nothing like some of the stuff I've seen. So I start right out saying, listen, no matter what you say, there's nothing you can tell me that I haven't heard. But I'm not going to judge you because I know this. Whatever it is that you have to say to me, if I had your identical lens, mindset, conditions, programming, I would be doing the exact same thing. So no matter what you say, how can I judge you? And I know I'd do the same thing if I were you. The question is whatever it is that happened or that you're doing, is it serving you? Is it making your life better and the lives of those around you? If the answer is no, then let's find a solution. Let's find another way.
So one of the things I was curious about is the balance wheel. I was in your class a couple of years ago, loved it. And I always struggle with kind of the work life being a little heavier, and I get it back in balance, or I do better with it, and I fall back into the same bad habits. So no matter what, I seem to continually get off balance. How can you keep it more in balance, or what are some suggestions maybe?
Great question. Great question. First of all, life doesn't stay in balance. Even if you had 10 5s or 10 7s, whatever it is, it's like, the whole thing about herding cats. You know, even if you could get them to stay in a line, how long would they stay that way? Right? So be aware that your life is always going to be in flux. There's always going to be some areas that are going more smoothly, and other areas where you're struggling. For instance, I had somebody who had almost a perfect balance wheel. It was like 9 nines and a 0. And the 0 was because of intimate relationships. This person had just broken up and had nobody in their life. And so it was like, there's a 0 there. I said, okay, so how do you feel about that? And he was like, I'm lonely and I don't want to be alone. I don't want to spend my life. I said, okay, so let's go ahead and make that a priority. Let's go get you a girl. And we'll bring that up. But in order to do that, one thing we've learned is when you're attempting to raise some part of your balance wheel, you're trying to increase the scores, they go, well, there's only 24 hours in a day. I mean, I've got work, I got this, how can I possibly? And I say, well, you take the areas that are the highest and you borrow from them. If, let's say, financial security, let's say you've got 20 million bucks in the bank, but your relationship with your kids is at a 3. Well, take some of that money and go to Disney World. Take some of that money and spend it on things that are going to help improve your relationships. And so you're always borrowing from the highest numbers. And they go, but then my 10 will go down to an 8. And I go, yeah, but your 3 will come up to a 6. A life of all 6, 7s, and 8s is still a lot better than 10s and 3s. And so it's okay if it comes down a little, if it brings the other one up. So that's one of the things that you really just get to a point where you can just do that with ease. And you had a second part to that question. It was, how do I keep it in balance? To the best you can. And it's knowing, that it's not going to stay in balance perfectly the whole time, right? And then it's, of course, when you're struggling, if it's conditioning, once again, we do what we believe. I had somebody who said, she's like, I want to be healthier and I want to I can't even take my vitamins every day. I put them on my desk, they're right in front of me, but I still blow them off. I'm not taking my vitamins. And I said, okay, that's all, I totally get it. I said, how often do you brush your teeth? And she goes, well, twice a day. I go, do you ever go like a week without brushing your teeth? She's like, no. I said, why? And she said, because my teeth will rot. I'll have horrible breath. It'll get unhealthy. I said, you believe all that? She goes, yeah. I said, that's why you do it. You don't believe that taking your vitamins every day is going to make that big a difference. She goes, how do you know? I said, because you're not doing it. You want to take those vitamins every day? Become an expert on nutrition and get to a point where go get your blood tested, find out your vitamin D levels are super low, this is that. Find out what will happen if you don't fix it, and get to a point where you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have to take care of myself. And if you truly believe that, then you will. See, I don't teach willpower. You know how willpower, it lasts for about this long. It's like walking in front of an ice cream store. It'll get you past the store. Everybody know all the ice cream shops in Gilbert? My God, on the stretch, there must be 5 of them. There's just nothing but ice cream stores. But you go inside with your friends who are going to get ice cream and try standing there for a half an hour without ordering. You're coming out with ice cream. Because willpower is only going to take you so far. I don't have ice cream in my house because at 9 o'clock at night, there's only one thing I want. It's ice cream. I don't rely on my willpower. So what do? If you really want something to work, you get it to the point where you believe it. Do you need willpower if you have a child who's run out into a freeway and you're tired? You've had a long day. Are you going to say, no, I'm too tired? Or are you going to go and jump over things and get to that middle of the freeway? Can I stop you from doing it? Do you need willpower? Nothing will stop you because you believe that if you don't go out there, your kid's going to get hit by a car. Beliefs control everything. So that's what you want to change, not using willpower and so on, but change the beliefs that drive the outcome that you're looking for. Is that helpful? Cool. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, that's right. We're 1, 2, 3.
I was going to ask, so I guess my question is, is for like people or in general if you have like higher ambitions, but also like you're the type that believes that you can be happy in any given situation. How do you like find the balance between like not necessarily being happy or satisfied, but also being content and understanding that things take time?
So did you say you're the type who can
So
be
like
happy no matter what?
Yeah, I feel like if you have a correct mindset that whether you're poor or rich, like you can be happy.
So it's called Loving What Is.
Yeah.
Byron Katie wrote a book, Love What Is. Very powerful. Love what is. It's like, right now, what do I love? I love being in front of this group right now in this setting. If I were thinking I need to be in front of 10,000 people in order to feel validated, then I wouldn't be all that happy. I'd be like, gosh, there's hardly anybody here. Or I could say, hey, I love this one-on-one because we can talk back and forth. We can interact, and we're videotaping it, so I'll reach even more people. This is exactly what I want right now, especially coming out of surgery. I don't think I want to stand in front of 10,000 people, just in case. So loving what is. So what's the question? If you are able to do that, what's the problem?
So what's the point
You're
of
already
reaching
happy.
for bigger goals if you can be happy?
Oh, okay. Oh, he's talking about passionate detachment, I think. So how do you, let's see if I got this right, and if not, it's still really a good answer. How do you go for it? How do you have moonshots? How do you swing for the fence? How do you like really play life full out if you're already happy with things just the way they are? Yeah, that's me. I call it passionate detachment, and here's what it looks like. When you get attached, like this is how it has to end. I gotta have this. And if I don't get this, then I'm gonna not be happy. It's gonna be, I'm gonna be upset. So why even try? Because I'm happy just the way I am. Let's just be with that, and I don't have to worry about it. What it comes down to is, what do we need? Think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What do we need? What are the basics?
Air,
Yeah, food, shelter, water, and oxygen. A little bit of sleep. That's it. After that, you don't need anything. So how many people in here have your needs met? I don't mean your wants. If your hand doesn't go up, I'm going to ask what's going on. I'm going to think like, which one of you is suffocating right now? So all of our needs are met, right? So what's the point? The point is that life is a game. The people are the happiest, the most excited, the most fulfilled are the ones who are playing the game. Whenever you play a game, do you just sit there and dabble, or do you try to level up? Do you try to get that game and get to the next one? Why do you want to level up? Why do you want to improve your life if it's already fine? When you're playing a game, why do you try to level up? Do you know the reason? Yeah, it feels good. Feels good. It produces dopamine. It just gives us a sense of accomplishment. It makes life interesting and makes it fun. So that's why we try to play that game. In life, it's the same. If you're just get up and just watch TV and you do absolutely nothing, you will not be that happy. You're just going to be there, going through the motions. So here's how you get around it. So think about baseball. You show up at home plate, and you've got that bat, and you swing for that ball. You swing as hard as you can. Boom, passionate. I live my life passionately, play full out, moonshots, boom. What happens after the ball leaves your bat? What can you do to change the direction, trajectory of that ball? Nothing. What can you do to keep somebody from catching that ball after you've hit it? Well, yeah. I mean, if you bring along a shotgun and you've got if you're a pretty good shot, you might drill him in the forehead with something, I suppose. But yeah, nothing you can do. You've hit the ball. It's going to land in. It's going to land out. It's going to be caught. It's not. Home run, grounder, infield. It's going to do whatever it does. So you let it go. I've already done all I can. Now you've got another mission. What is it? The ball's in the air. There you go. Turn toward first base, and now I have a new passionate mission, and that's to run my butt off as fast as I can to get to first base. Nothing else. That's all that I can do. That's all I have control over right now. When I get to first base, what's my next mission? if it's a good idea, second base. And that's how I live my life. Whatever is the thing that I have control over right at this moment, I give it everything I've got, and then I let go. And whatever happens will happen. And I love my life. And it's exciting. And sometimes I don't hit a home run. Sometimes I'll strike out, but I'll go down swinging and love every minute of it. So you do it because that's the game. Is that helpful? I mean, it's a simple answer, but it works. Go ahead.
So my question is pretty loaded, and maybe I'll get your number after this. But it's I don't know. Are you familiar with like Tony Robbins seminars that he does?
Oh, sure.
UPW and David
Sure.
Destiny. So I've spent like tens of thousands of dollars going to all of his seminars. I've been to a lot of UPW events, and one of the strategies that he uses in these events is neurological linguistic programming,
Which he calls NAC, Neuro Associative Conditioning. So
Yeah.
it sounds like it's his.
Yeah,
Same
right.
thing. It's NLP. Yeah.
And you're reinforcing like pain with the standards that you don't want in your life, and then enforcing pleasure.
Triggers.
And so I've gone through a lot of those seminars, and the results in my life, like financially and like my investments have worked out. I've got side businesses that I do, and like, performance metrics have been good, but it's almost like I've lost my peace. And it's kind of hard to describe because there's always this like kind of pain pushing me to do, and it's like I lost my authenticity. And so I've spent like the last few years trying to sort of deconstruct this programming that I've hammered into me so deep. And there's just lots of like side effects, like my relationships have suffered. There's parts of my life that aren't working, but the standards that I've reinforced. And it's funny when you describe like being open to things, it's like I'm open to all kinds of solutions around that standard. Anything outside that causes me pain. And so how do I get back to being authentic and back to peace?
Yeah, that's a great question. So imagine that you go right back to know thyself. What is it that you want? Imagine getting a really clear vision of what that is. What is that life? Because it's so easy, again, for us to say, so think of his training as a lot of it is peak performance. As if peak performance is what matters most, and that's the thing that we need to live our lives. How can I be at that peak level always, all the time? But peak performance doesn't look the same if it's peace of mind. What does peak performance look like when it comes to peace of mind?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just being. It's just being. It's not impressive, doesn't look like anything to anyone on the outside, but you're at this place, and that's a form of peak performance. And so getting back to what matters to me. What do I really want out of my life? The balance wheel is helpful, right? And being able to say that's just a tool. So yeah, I use NLP. It's a tool, but cognitive behavioral therapy. So I'm a CBT therapist. I use that one. I use whatever tools seem to make the most sense for the circumstances, but they're just tools. So think of Bruce Lee, who was arguably the greatest martial artist of all time. You want to know what made him as good as he was? He broke tradition. Normally, you learned one single martial arts, whether it was Hapkido or Kung Fu or karate or and you would master that one thing. And he'd say, but this one thing doesn't apply to everything. I mean, if somebody's throwing me around, I need judo. If, whatever it might be. He says, I'm going to learn them all. And I'll use whichever one best serves me under the circumstances. And so under the circumstances, in this case, but now my life is so driven that I'm missing all the simpler things in life, and I'm not able to find total peace and serenity unless I'm out there pounding away, that sort of thing. And so that's where you get to say, yeah, but that doesn't work for everything. So now I want to find peace in my life, and I need to accept that, first of all, I'm not perfect, never will be, so that's self-acceptance. And when you're looking at what you really want out of your life, You ask, are these the tools that work? Will these tools help me get there? And if not, because you're obviously growth mindset, you're looking for other answers, you're looking for other solutions. So if you can give me like an example, then I could say, well, here's the version that I would use for that. And just if you just say, well, I want serenity. I want to feel complete. Well, first of all, human beings never feel totally complete. Even if you do, it doesn't last because there's always something just around the corner. But I want to feel complete when? What exists? There's only one thing that exists for us at any given time. It's now. Yeah. And so much of what Tony is teaching and what you're describing is future directed. It's living a life for outcomes. And there's a lot of dark sides to that. First of all, where do you think fear comes from? It's impossible to be afraid of the past. You can't even be afraid of the moment. Do you want to know why? You know how long the moment lasts? 1 second. By the time you have consciously registered the moment, it's now in the past. 100% of all fear is about the future. So when you are living a future-oriented, outcome-oriented life, you're setting yourself up for fear and anxiety and all sorts of other things. And what if you don't get there? And oh, by the way, that's in the future. What am I sacrificing in order to be there? And so imagine that you made your number one priority at this time of your life to be learning how to be in the moment and learning how to love what is. And say, right here, right now is the only chance I have of having peace in my life, is being able to say, everything's okay. I'm okay, I'm not perfect, no one is, and that's okay. And I love my life. And here's some reasons why I love my life. Not something about the future, but about right this moment. Before we say goodbye, I want everyone in this room to say one reason why they love their life. Who wants to go first? Yeah. I love my life. I love my family. Be in that moment. Think about your family. Be with them. Or at least just imagine your life with this family in it and what it does for you. Yeah. And so learning how to be in this moment is one of the best ways to counter. Is this helpful for you? Yeah. And obviously, there's a lot, and I'm trying to give you single tidbits, and sometimes it's more than one answer in order to get to whatever it is we want. All right, what do you love about your life? Yeah, great. What do you, family? All right.
Be the same, yes. It really is family.
Well, pivoting, I love that I feel like the main character. The opportunity comes when right before I feel I'm ready for it, and then I take it. And I love it.
Yeah, beautiful. What do you love about your life?
Your family.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, I actually had a second chance at life, so I'm totally grateful for whatever life gives me now.
For all of your opportunities, for the opportunities that you still have. Yeah, I love it. James?
My work family.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. What do you love about your life?
The opportunities as well. Yeah. My family, yes, but
I know people would say, I love everything but my family. What do you love? Your dogs? Okay, that's family. Your children, nice. What do you love about your life? Things are good. All right. That's we're going to look at something a little more specific in the future because it's easier when we can think of something specific to love about our lives. Otherwise, the brain doesn't know how to wrap its way around abstract concepts. What do you love about your life?
I love having good health.
Yeah. You look like it. You got some guns there, bro. What do you love about your life?
Healthy marriage.
Healthy marriage. That's beautiful. Cam, what do you love?
For you.
Huh?
For you.
For me?
Yeah, for you, for Mark.
Oh, hey, okay. Best answer of the whole night, whole day. And I love so many things about my life that I could go on for hours and hours because every single morning, that's how I wake up. I wake up, I lie in bed, I smile because smiling triggers dopamine in your brain. And while I'm smiling, I go down the list. I love what I do for a living. I love that I actually get paid to help people love their life. What could be better than that? I love my family. I love my health. I love where I live. I love where I live in the summer, where I live in the winter. I could go on and on and on. You want to become a master at coming up with all the things you love about your life. Because the more you can think of, the more likely you are to what?
Love your life.
Love your life.
I can say when we were here last time, you didn't like your health, so that's good, because I
Oh.
remember you had some health issues, and you were saying that was something, so now it's good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just came from the hospital, so hey, they fixed it all. So the next time we do this, hopefully you'll bring along questions. For what it's worth, the tougher the questions, the better. The more I get to sink my teeth into them. So bring whatever it is you like, and thank you for sharing your time with me, you guys. I really enjoyed this. Yay!